Hi, welcome to Turning It Up. We are a mom and daughter team that love people and thrill in finding and sharing ideas, tips, and tools for the everyday person to truly find themselves and live the extraordinary lives that they are meant to live. I am Kiara Bowden, along with my mom, Heather Christensen, and we are so excited you're here with us. Please let us know who you are, and if you haven't yet, give us a thumbs up and subscribe.
So last episode, busting through limiting beliefs, we continued our limiting belief journey by reviewing how to write affirmations, the importance of repeating those affirmations for reprogramming, and listening to meditations to target negative thinking. Besides working through the questions in episode 10, uncovering limiting beliefs, the repetition and meditations are critical. We talked about that, to busting through those barriers to reprogram that negativity. And this time it's on to busting through relationship barriers. Kiara, do you want to address those relationship barriers?
Sure. So I guess you might be a person out there that does not have any relationship issues. If you are, good for you. You've got this mastered. Move on to the next episode. But for 95% of the rest of us, we are not perfect. And when you work with people or are with people, you can very easily run into challenges. Many times those challenges are even with the people that we love the most.
I don't think Kiara has ever had any relationship challenges with me.
Definitely not in my teenage years, for sure.
Oh, I once read that every relationship is an assignment to help us grow. That's pretty profound, but every relationship is a chance for us to learn something about ourselves. So, for some of those relationships, they can be inspiring and motivating growth. And then there are those others that really challenge us. So, for each relationship, if we were to hold up a mirror and then picture our face on their body, that person can tell us something about ourselves. So sometimes you might be in the flow with someone, you're really jiving, and then you connect with that positive energy.
Okay. All right.
Uh, and hold up that mirror and ask what it is you can learn from that person about yourself. And I think you'll find some wonderful insights. Or perhaps you are feeling challenged with that person, sometimes extremely challenged. What is the mirror going to tell you when you hold it up in front of that person's face?
Yeah, challenges with relationships may not appear to be barriers to your dreams or have anything to do with that. But when you're not at peace with your relationships, it causes negativity and it will drain your energy, which takes you further away from your dreams and not closer to them. I think this is talked about a lot nowadays is that, get rid of the toxic people in your life because they are draining your energy and you can't use it for things that are better worth your time. So this is really similar, but this gives you a way, like if you can't get rid of the person, then how do you work through it instead of just step away from the situation?
Yeah, that's why we're addressing this, is because we can do something about it. Relationship barriers are actually a thing, like Kiara just said, and we need to address them. A challenging relationship is a good opportunity to turn inward and do some self reflection. So hold up the mirror and figure out what it is you need to learn about yourself so that you can either embrace it or work on changing it so you can move on. I know if I'm having an issue with someone, it will completely take over my mental capacity. I mean, it's emotion and I shut down. All of a sudden, my subconscious starts going into gear. And some people call it the child. All of the emotion just starts running rampant. I'll drop out of my heart space and that programming will just take over. And before I know it, I am slammed off the track and I don't even know what hit me.
Yeah, I was thinking that a good example of reacting in the head and not the heart with a person is the very controversial situation of what Will Smith did to Chris Rock,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
the comedian. When he said something about Will's wife's bald head, she had been shaving her head for a year because of alopecia, which is basically spot baldness. Um, During the Academy Awards of March 2022, I think it was 2022, Chris made the joke about on stage in front of everybody about Will's wife, and Will came up from the audience and slapped Chris in the face.
I think that would, anyone would think that was a good reason to slap him. I mean, that's horrible.
It is really bad. I know that a lot of people have a lot of opinions on this, but I think it may have also been a cause for regret for Will. I mean, later that night, he apologized when he was awarded Best Actor, but he didn't apologize to Chris. And then the next day, he posted an apology through social media to Chris and the Academy, but then he actually ended up resigning from the Academy and was banned from attending the events for the next 10 years. So it
Yeah.
had a lot of repercussions.
It would have been interesting to see what the difference may have been if he had been in his heart space. There are so many examples of people reacting to other people in the media. We've seen how they become violent enough to take the lives of people, all because of the negative emotion that takes over and send us straight to our negative programming.
I
And
Sorry,
what
I was
go
just
ahead.
gonna say, this isn't as sad as when, people turn to taking each other's lives, but it actually reminded me of this video me and Carson was watching on the news, and it was about a fist fight that had broken out at a Golden Corral because there were people fighting over like the bacon that was left and there was no more. And they just got so angry and were fighting over the bacon. So they started throwing punches and chairs and all that kind of stuff. I just thought it
Whoa.
was funny. Clearly not in
Whoa.
your heart space either, but a good example.
No, not in the heart space at all. I'm just really thinking because we've heard a lot about those kinds of things that have happened more so since COVID happened. I mean, it just put people into a weird space, a really weird space into programming darkness. There was a lot of vibration going on. Well, those are more extreme examples. So let's dial it back to our everyday life that most of us experience. Let's say you are at work in the office. You may have been working extra hard to make your manager notice some of the work you've been doing. So your manager shows some interest, some signs that you have promise in their eyes. And then at the next staff meeting, your coworker says something that throws you under the bus in front of everyone. That actually happened to me. You're humiliated. It looks like everything you work for has been shot. What do you do?
Or like, how about a social setting? Like there's someone in your friend group that you are continually feeling judged by, and they seem to always be leaving you out of activities that they're having, or even if they do invite you, you still feel left out. So what do you do? Or a family setting. Most people can relate to a partner doing something that continues to nag at them. Perhaps leaving their pants on the floor in the same place, and maybe even leaving several clothing items throughout the week in that same place, and it just becomes a pile.
And I'm sure that we've heard about divorces that have happened, something like where the initial argument began with a spouse squeezing the toothpaste at the top of the tube instead of the bottom of the tube. And what are these relationships really trying to tell us? On a personal note, I may have mentioned in a previous episode that our oldest daughter has multiple disabilities and can be quite taxing. She is 29 years old, actually with the mental capacity of a 5-year old. And when she comes, I am the entertainer. We have fun, at least we're supposed to. I noticed that every time she came to stay with us, I got really agitated. I started getting really agitated after a couple of days. Actually, it was like the first day we were all good and everything. And then I started feeling this anxiety and this agitation would start to build up in me. And I kept thinking, this is so ridiculous. I need to enjoy my daughter when she's with me. There's something that I must need to fix about myself. So I did a mirror meditation and actually found out that in that mirror meditation, I found out that I had a
And
limiting belief.
just for our listeners, a mirror meditation is like a relationship barrier buster
Oh
meditation.
yeah, sorry. That. I actually found out that I had a limiting belief that I needed to fix it. I found out that I had a limiting belief that I needed to fix about myself. When I did that meditation, the limiting belief that I had was that I thought that I was a bad mom and I didn't deserve to have fun.
Man, that's rough to think about yourself. Yeah, I had one that was especially life-changing for me is that I had this one friend, and we have been friends for a long time, and I really liked her, but at the same time, our relationship caused me a lot of stress because I always felt like it was a competition with her. It was always like us neck and neck. And I'm a very competitive person, and I would really try to be a good friend and try not to be, but she was also. So she was just bringing this like competitiveness about life in general. It doesn't matter what it was. Like if something bad happened to her that day, that or something bad happened to me that day, then she always had something worse to say. Or
Up
just
the ante.
yeah,
She was
it
up
was
the
just
ante.
It was exhausting, and I was really fed up with it at a certain point and almost completely walked away from the relationship because it was so draining. But I really did like this friend. I just hated this how this was our relationship. But then I learned about relationship barrier busters, and so I decided to do one with her on it. And I realized that when I looked at myself, it was my desire to be competitive that was also fueling this aspect of our relationship because I put up the mirror and was like, this is something that I can learn to let go. Because it comes back to that saying, like, everything is neutral until you give it meaning. And for me, I was taking everything that she said as a competition, when in reality, I could have just taken it and let it go. But instead, I am just this, like, very high-driven person and felt like she was just somehow trying to undermine me with everything. And ever since I came to that realization, our relationship has been so great, and I really love spending time with her, and it's just a different type of relationship, but it's not one that's draining my energy anymore. I've learned to just let it go.
What kinds of feelings do you have now versus what they were before?
I actually have more feelings of compassion towards her. Like if I were to say something crazy that happened to me and she said something even worse, then I now feel compassion instead of like, she's just trying to, you know, one
Up
up
the
me with
ante.
that. Yeah. So I feel a lot more compassion towards her and a lot more like a friend. Like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. How can I help you?" Instead of, "All right, well, let me think of something else I can say to to one up you this time."
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a really good example. I was talking with a client that was having some challenges with her son. And at a point when she was connected to her heart space, trying to figure this whole thing out, the reflection told her that he was doing what he was doing so that she could learn to have patience and not judge him for the challenges that he was going through. I think at some point, all of us parents come to that realization.
Yeah, for sure. So speaking of connecting to your heart space, on our Your Life, Your Team app, we actually have a great mirror reflection meditation with questions in it to help you through any relationship challenges you are having. This is a fantastic way to do the relationship barrier. It's number 5 on the guided meditations.
So glad you brought that up, Kiara. I am really excited about this meditation, but we aren't going to play it here. So we're going to do a little bit of the exercise instead. The app is relatively inexpensive and it gives you tons of tools that will help you bust through barriers. And I encourage it because of all of the tools that it gives you. And if you are really working hard to um, reprogram your mind, it's seriously helpful. And the more time you spend in it, the more beneficial it is. So the value is really worth it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. The relationship mirror meditation exercise takes you through a visualization and then gives you the chance to be introspective about something that you need to change about yourself so you can move forward. Just like what we're talking about, holding up the mirror so that we're looking at ourselves instead of looking at the person as the problem. Then it takes you through these questions that we'll share with you. So let's grab a pen and notebook or take notes on your phone, however you want to do it. If you can answer these questions, you will be well on your way to working through that barrier. So, without further ado, did I even say that right?
Yeah.
Further ado.
Further ado, ado you.
Question 1: who is bothering you? Question 2: briefly describe the problem you are having with them. Question 3: briefly describe why it's an issue right now. Question 4: if you haven't done the meditation, you can sit back and close your eyes, connect to your heart space, picture that person across from you, and then hold up the mirror in front of their face. What is this person teaching you about yourself so that you can move on?
I know the questions, they seem simple enough, and they are, but if you are really honest in this introspective exercise, you'll find some great insights. And if you don't receive the answers right away, you can continue to meditate, or you can trust that the answer will come when you're in your automatic zone, when your programming is just running and your creative mind has a chance to open up and start giving you some creative insights. So it's like when you're showering or doing dishes, walking, something will allow your creative mind to awaken. So this was a shorter topic this week, but it's super important to be able to break those through those barriers and continue with your purpose and your journeys and your goals. We're excited about it.
Yeah, so that wraps it up. We hope you're enjoying this. Like I already said, thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And next time, we are going to visit our last barrier buster topic, which is the overloaded barrier, or how to manage feeling overwhelmed, which I think all of us can benefit from, especially me. All right, bye. Thanks.
Bye.